Hi, Jini Patel Thompson here, international best-selling author of Listen to Your Gut. I help people heal from digestive diseases using natural methods. I myself have been 100% drug and surgery free from widespread Crohn's for over 25 years with my dear friend Natasha Trenev, who is the founder and owner of Natren Probiotics. She is the mother of probiotics. She had probiotic standards read into congressional record, which if they were actually adhered to, we'd have a much better industry. But we are doing this series of calls to basically get Natasha's knowledge out into the mainstream because she is such a wealth of information, and we don't have a lot of people left anymore of Natasha's age and experience and in-depth understanding of health. And so that's why I asked her to let's do this series together and let's just dive deep into everything that you know and bring it out before it disappears for good. So thank you, Natasha.
And thank you, Jini. Just to let the people know, I've been in this industry 60 years. I'm 77, and I'm still working because I'm horrified at the number of chronically ill people I come across every day and the number of chronically ill children. And one of the reasons I love working with Jini, because our heart is in the right place and we have the intellectual capacity to discern when we hear something that's not the truth. And there's a lot of misinformation out there, and we're not going to get our nation better unless we understand thoroughly what the problem is and what is the best way to deal with that problem. And that's why I think I did this with Jini, because the information is just not forthcoming with some sexy man or woman shaking their booty and telling you that you need a colon cleanse. That's the last thing you need right now. So here we go. And we'll be talking today. Are we talking about the semaglutides, or are we talking about IBS? So let's tell people what they need to hear.
All right, today Natasha and I are going to talk about the protocols that she uses with Natren Probiotics for Irritable Bowel Syndrome, and at the end we're going to get into SIBO as well. And I'll kick in with the protocols that we use that are in my books, Listen to Your Gut and Listen to Your IBS. And we're going to give you a basic understanding and microbiota based treatment for IBS and SIBO. So do you want to start off, Natasha? Or do you want me to put the slide up here?
Let me just first explain that people do not understand what the term IBS means. It literally means Irritable Bowel Syndrome. Now, what the heck does that mean? It's a catch-all phrase that gastroenterologists have been using for well over many decades to describe anything that's abnormal in the digestion and the motility of the food going down your 27 feet of intestinal tract that's causing irritation either with the immune cells on the lining of the intestinal tract, or the food is breaking down into wrong particle size that's causing inflammation and becoming readily available food to the unfriendly characters you have in your GI tract. So it's a host of problems, but initially IBS was not treated as an inflammatory disease. It was mostly a dysfunction of how the food is processed and goes down your intestinal tract.
That is the best description I've ever heard. Just saying.
Okay. Well, I really struggle to teach people without using terminology, which I'm sure they don't understand. Believe me, I even have to have talks with doctors because I sit down and figure out basically what's happening here. And, most people, they just attach terminology and have no clue what's going on that could be destroying their health, both mentally and physically.
Yes. All right, carry on.
What I have done for IBS. Now, IBS with diarrhea is very serious because I've talked to numerous people that literally their life gets dependent on finding toilets wherever they go. And I'm going to get, very simple here. I'm not sparing any terminology. So I know many people that would have to plan and know every toilet and check to make sure that every gas station, restaurant, whatever is open within a 5-mile radius wherever they travel. Because when those urges become so severe, you literally have to run to the bathroom.
Yeah, you will poop your pants.
Yeah. You will poop in your pants, and that's not pleasant.
No.
So what I've done with those people, I definitely know that the Healthy Trinity will help. I recommend you start with 2 capsules of the Healthy Trinity because most people say keep it simple. And, stop eating all raw foods. I tell them get off of raw foods, get off of any type of grains that may be causing irritation. And, simply eat. Now I know that people have gotten into eating beef. And this is something new because apparently with some of the researchers I'm working with, and this is shocking to me, that, a grass-fed beef or beef in general, it grows bifidobacteria in the large intestine. It stimulates the growth of bifidobacteria. So I tell people if you're allergic and you're not going to be offended by eating beef, that might be a safe thing for you to use while you're trying to recover. And
I
I
had
think,
never heard of that, that a protein can stimulate the growth of positive bacteria. That's
yeah, well,
amazing.
I didn't hear that until I started working with a prominently recognized researcher, medical doctor, gastroenterologist, hepatologist, and she shared this information with me. And frankly, if any of you listen to the congressional testimony of the daughter of Jordan Peterson, she
Yeah,
she
Michaela.
has allergies to everything.
Yeah,
She literally lives on beef, which I don't agree.
yeah,
I wish I could get a hold of her so that Ginny and I could help her
yeah.
uh, because that's all she eats is beef. And the researcher I'm talking about recommends a bovine supplement for people to take to help grow their bifidobacteria. So all these notions we've had before, guys, have to go away because they were not done by anybody who had extensive knowledge of how the GI tract works, of what foods, are okay and what foods are not okay. I think we just have an emotional reaction to certain foods without any real feedback from the population as to what works and doesn't work.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I'm not recommending it. I'm just telling you what I know. So you can adjust this, Healthy Trinity take more capsules. Believe me, you can take the whole bottle. It will never hurt you. None of my probiotics will ever hurt anybody because I don't fool around with what I call designer probiotics.
Yes, but I'm going to interject. If you take a whole bottle, you are going to get a heck of a die-off Herxheimer reaction.
Oh
So
yeah.
you're going to
Oh yeah.
feel like it's hurting you, but it's actually helping you. But you're going to because Candida yeast, when it dies, releases 168 different toxins, which your
Yes.
body then has to flush.
That's
So
right.
yeah, the die-off is gonna be
Yeah.
absolutely brutal. So
Thank you. Yeah.
don't take the whole
Well,
bottle.
right. Yeah. No, I'm just saying initially, there's nothing in the product that's harmful to your body.
Absolutely.
It's the fight, this is another thing people don't understand. It's the fight of the microbes for dominance because their primal directive in life is to dominate their own kind and to multiply their own kind. And people need to understand this. And when a bacteria that's, chameleon, it can be friendly under certain conditions, but if it's allowed to overgrow, it will and can grow, produce a toxin that will hurt your body and ultimately your liver.
I could take that off in so many directions, and let's do that on another
No,
call.
right.
So I'm going
Okay.
to keep us on track here. I'm going to screen share the slide here. Okay. So
No.
let's talk about the immune system in the gut in someone with irritable bowel syndrome.
Well, you know, what the scientists have found here, so to give it to you in a nutshell, that, you have a minimal exposure to the proper beneficial bacteria on a daily basis. So the immune system is either upregulated or downregulated by its interaction with the microbes that find attachment sites on your intestinal wall.
Okay,
And
let's stop you
yeah,
there. The immune system is either upregulated or downregulated,
yes,
depending on the bacteria that are actually attached to your intestinal wall.
correct.
That's really important. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So the immune system, and tells you right here in the infographic, it can mistakenly react to the food and even attack our own gut microbes, the ones who are good for us, because it's now completely confused and going wild It doesn't know what's attacking the body and what's not. Because remember, in the previous episode, I made the analogy. Your immune system is like a scanner, okay? And the particles coming in are like your QR code. If the bacteria or the food particle has the wrong QR code, your immune system is going to overreact because its not primal objective is to defend the body, even if it has to destroy the cellular structure of the body in order to defend the body from the ultimate unwant is death. Okay, so it is primed to do this. So what we have done, we have really allowed our immune system to become irregular and to just react because we've damaged that interaction with the proper beneficial bacteria to calm down the immune system and tell, hey, calm down. This is okay for it. Food is going into the bloodstream. It's not a bacteria or yeast that's going to attack the body. That's basically what needs to happen. That's a down regulation function. Upregulation means where the bacteria tell the immune system, hey, we better buttress, we're being attacked and we need to work together to defend the body. And that's what's not happening in irritable bowel syndrome.
Can you speak just a little bit on this whole concept of adhering to the intestinal wall? Because a lot of people assume, oh, I've got this bottle of random probiotics and I'm taking them, and they think that probiotics are like vitamins, that they just have to take them and they're fine. And they don't understand that these are live creatures and they have preferences and they have, as you said, they have their own agendas and they have. So can you talk about that, about, what's different about Natren in terms of that, not just ability, but desire to attach to the intestinal wall and colonize? And can you speak about that?
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to remind people we're a hybrid of bacterial or microbes and human cells. Usually the microbes outnumber the human cells 2-1. And so what we have here is a very unique opportunity to help this function, because the reason we have chronic illness is we don't have the right amount of microbes in our gut at birth from unhealthy parents, and that proliferates during our lifetime because we're eating foods laden with 10,000 chemicals, according to the latest report. So what I'm saying here, what is important and what I've spent my life doing, I only choose microbes that are completely friendly to the human body, have been in the literature for well over 100 years, and have shown no data published anywhere that has ever turned against the body or done any harm. That's very important. And so remember, your intestinal wall lining is only one cell thick. And depending on your individuality, that one cell thick wall changes those cells every 3 to 5 days. So every time a new cell is thrown off the intestinal wall, it throws off the bacteria who have attached themselves to the intestinal wall to either do good or harm to the body. I'm simplifying this now.
Yeah.
So when somebody tells me that you have a stable microflora for the rest of your life, yeah, if you live on a Greek island and you have wonderful fresh food and fresh water, you have minimal stress, you have a perfect life, you don't have to worry too much about this. But in our day and age, you have to worry a lot, because when you're under stress, you produce such harmful chemicals that if you put them in a petri dish, it would kill your cellular structure. And so the stress chemicals, the uncertainty of what's being attached to your intestinal wall, what happens is that 40% of your dry weight fecal matter is bacteria. So if the good guys are not supported by the immune system or what you're doing mentally and physically, they're going to leave your body every day. They're not going to stay. They're not stupid. They're not going to stay somewhere where you have chemicals being produced that attack them, that you're not a very good host. And so they say, heck, I'm not going to waste my cellular structure and growth patterns here. I'm going to go somewhere else where it's more beneficial for multiplying my own kind. That's what's happening and what people don't understand. And then they go and run out and buy some fermented food, which may or may not contain the bacteria listed on the label. But what I'm telling you, it's a very serious situation. Fermented food is a functional food. It's not really going to stimulate the growth of the beneficial bacteria to any extent because of the number of problems we have in our food supplies, in our air, in our water, in our ground. That has to change slowly. And there has to be the standard for every fermented food of really what starter culture it contains, and not just throwing in what I call sexy names of bacteria on the label to make you think you're getting something extra. You're not. There's massive confusion in a society that's suffering from chronic disease, and we have to stop the confusion in order to start tackling the chronic disease.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. All right, so let's get
So,
back to our infographic here.
yeah.
All right.
So, yeah. So, why are you in pain? Because when your immune system starts tearing up your cellular structure, it's also affecting neurons that are also on your intestinal wall. And that's what causes the pain. So now on top of everything else, you have pain. It's usually gas that's withheld in there because the bacteria that are attacking the food that is not fully digested, and the wrong bacteria are now adhering to your intestinal wall, are causing this large amount of gas. You produce gas every day, but when it's produced by the wrong bacteria in large amounts, it's going to cause pain. That's where the pain comes from. And so if you eat the wrong food, that's why you get the abdominal pain, because the food is not being digested. It becomes direct food for the not so friendly yeast and bacteria that's causing the irritable bowel syndrome in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that's understandable. So post-meal discomfort is huge. And it can appear almost instantaneously after ingestion. So what I tell people, look, if you suspect the food is not good for you, eliminate it from your diet for 3 days, and then reintroduce it slowly. I would tell people who have IBS, stop eating all raw foods. Stop eating any food that's highly processed. Don't drink any sodas. Do not drink anything with sugar. Just drink plain water. And if you want to squeeze a little bit of lemon in that, that's it. Don't drink anything except filtered plain water. And so what also happens is, and I've talked about this now for 20 years before it became accepted, that there's going to also be a disturbance between the gut-brain axis. So what happens if these microbes that are needed to produce the feel-good hormones like serotonin and dopamine, they don't produce it because we want them to produce it. They produce it because the situation is ideal for them to produce it for you to use. And then those neurochemicals are uptaken by the vagus nerve to the first brain. And so that's why you have huge depression and anxiety problems when you have IBS, because those feel-good chemicals are not produced. And not to get too technical, but there's also precursors that are produced in the GI tract to the formation of tryptophan and GABA. All of those neurochemicals that make us feel good, they are subjugated to diminished production. And as a consequence, we start having those things that we just label in the West. And everybody thinks, oh, I got to take some psychotropic drug to deal with it. It doesn't really deal with it. It's not even a good Band-Aid. It's a huge problem. I see young people on multiple drugs that have this problem, and nobody investigates what's going on in their GI tract.
I was listening to a podcast from a woman who specializes in drug addiction detox, and I was really surprised because she said two things surprised me. First of all, the SSRI inhibitors, she said, cause the worst effects. And she said whenever she hears a story about someone just suddenly killing their family or their children or whatever, she's like, what drugs were they on? She goes, they're always on that drug. She said so in the list of side effects should be listed homicide, because that's how much they mess with the brain. And then the other thing that surprised me, she said the absolute worst drug to detox from, surprisingly, out of all the drugs, is Xanax.
Yes.
She said you have to go so slow and it takes so long, and the symptoms, she goes, it's actually the worst drug. And people think of Xanax as like a lesser drug, right? It's actually one of the worst.
Yeah. Well, again, it's the lack of what I call honest information that we're getting from big pharma.
Yeah.
And that's, and in fact, it's so difficult to find any practitioner, forget medical doctor, any practitioner that really understands these effects intrinsically. And you're right. A lot of this violence that happens, with the people shooting other people, it's because their brain chemistry becomes so messed up that they literally become violent.
Yeah.
And that was proven with what I call the hostess Twinkie defense many years ago here in San Francisco, when a supervisor killed, two members of the council in San Francisco because he just went berserk. And the food that you eat can cause such a chemical imbalance that you become violent.
Yeah, we just do not have a good perspective on all these contributing factors.
No.
And we don't have a good perspective on how important and how involved the bacteria and all the byproducts that the bacteria produces in your gut are in every one of these circumstances.
Yeah. It would be so simple if people would listen to us, but unfortunately, it's the people with the messaging and, the money to get this information out. If the proper information was gotten out, no parent under any condition would give their child a psychotropic drug.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just talked recently to beautiful parents of a 9.5-year-old boy who's autistic, and they've had to put him on a couple of psychotropic drugs because he just became violent. And we're slowly getting them off. They're following my recommendation. We're slowly getting the child off, and he's behaving more normally. But this is the tragedy when a child can't even communicate with you and you use these very powerful drugs, it becomes a lifelong problem.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And just to interject here, so for IBS, the protocols that I recommend, and hundreds of thousands of my readers have followed, is that first of all, again, back to the microbiota, you've got a predominantly unhealthy negative bacterial balance in your gut. So first thing we do is we use substances like wild oregano to kill the pathogens. And there's a specific type of wild oregano that you have to use, and there's dosages that you have to use. And then, but combined with that, at the same time, you then at night, so you're doing wild oregano, say 5 times a day, super high dose. And then right before you go to bed, you are on a high dose of the Natren Probiotics, because you have to do the two simultaneously. And when I first released this protocol, I had about 250 of my readers who are like, yeah, I'll test that with you. And what we found is if you just killed stuff, first of all, it just got too harsh. And then the die-off and the symptoms, they were just too nasty. And it actually took longer. But when you combine the pathogen killer with the high potency therapeutic Natren Probiotic, then all night the body recovered, the good bacteria went to work, calmed the system down. They were also helping to kill the pathogens. And then the next morning you start again. You kill all day, and then at night you do the Natren. And this balance, it works not just for IBS and SIBO, it works for Crohn's and colitis. It works for the Mycobacterium, avium paratuberculosis, which has a 2-year dormant active life cycle. So every 3 months, this bacterial fungal hybrid comes to life, and then you go back on the protocol.
Yeah.
And you know when it's done because all your symptoms disappear. So then you go back to just the Natren probiotic supplementation
Mhm.
and you stay on that. And then around, 2, 3, 4 months, it's going to reactivate. You go back on the protocol and you just kind of go like that. And for people with Crohn's and colitis, that can take up to 2 years cycle to actually clear
Yeah.
all this mycobacterium.
Well, mycobacterium, I want to remind people, is the link between bacteria and viruses. Usually, what distinguishes mycobacteria is that they don't have a cell wall structure, and they're much more agile and much more able to defend themselves from the immune system. So the people have to understand why it's so deadly and why it can come back.
Yeah, and it's not detectable in normal tests. You have to have
Yeah.
genetic, like because it has no cell wall, you have to use I don't know if it's DNA or RNA testing to identify if you have it, but it's irrelevant because in Crohn's studies, up to 90% of people with Crohn's disease have this. So just
Yeah.
treat it. Just do the protocol. Get rid of
Yeah.
it.
I tell you, it's a lot cheaper and you suffer less if the protocols won't hurt you.
Yeah.
That's number one. And believe me, the tests are inaccurate. A lot of these testing laboratories, and I have a whole position on fecal testing, that it's not accurate. You can maybe find a pathogen, but it doesn't mean that pathogen is overgrowing and causing the problem. So it's a very complex issue. Remember, it's 40% of your dry weight fecal matter is bacteria. That's a huge amount. Second of all, there's secondary fermentation going on in the large intestine, so you can't really tell. And that's why it's important to not waste time and money. Just go on the protocol. It won't hurt you. Wherever the case may be, you're going to feel better. That's what's important. We're not harming you, and we're actually helping you to get better. And, it's interesting to me why all these people all of a sudden have constipation, some of these young women, and I do put them also on the digestolac with their food because that one stimulates peristalsis naturally.
Yeah.
So if you got chronic constipation and you want a natural way to help your body deal with it, then the digestolac product is perfect because it's the only real bacteria that can stimulate peristalsis and pre-digest the food for you.
Yeah, but
So,
that's what we tell people with
yeah,
IBS. We're like, if you tend towards constipation, go heavy on the digestolac. If you
yeah,
tend towards diarrhea, go heavy on the bifido because they'll
yeah,
help to balance what's happening
right.
in your
And
intestine.
and there's best ways to take these products, and there's no like they'll never hurt you. But if you want better results, then you follow the protocol we recommend. And the beauty with our products, they all work together. They don't work against you. There's different delivery systems, but they're same bacteria. Because remember, we got to deal with 27 feet of your GI tract, which is not easy. And if you took your small intestine and spread it, it would cover the size of a tennis court. So
Yeah.
we had a huge amount of area that we have to deal with.
And I want to emphasize what you said about the foods and just to echo, yes, like get your grains as low as you can. That includes sugar. All those carbs that digest
Mhm.
down into sugars, get those as low as you can while you're on this treatment because all of those grains and sugars are feeding the bad bacteria. So take that burden off your body. Also test eliminating dairy because that's another top one
Mhm.
that's an irritant that people don't surprisingly don't think about. You can, if you have access to raw milk and raw cheese, you can definitely, when you go to add it back in, test the raw milk or the raw cheese first. Excuse me.
Small amounts.
Exactly. Start with just a small amount and test it. And the other thing, so I want to give a little tip because I've been doing this myself. If you have an intolerance to dairy and you'd like to make that better, a way that I've been experimenting with, Natasha, that's actually been working really well
Mhm.
because I did a raw milk diet, long story, but then I didn't tolerate cow dairy after that because I didn't do it properly. Anyway, so now but I can tolerate sheep. So I have this sheep yogurt, and into it, I add the Natren probiotics.
Mhm.
And I can add the dairy free, but I can also add the ones with cow dairy into that sheep yogurt. And that is helping to build tolerance because cow dairy is hidden in so many foods. And I was like, I want more tolerance for cow dairy. I don't want to have to be worried that, oh, I'm out and I'm eating this and that's dairy and now I'm going to be bloated and gassy. So I've just been doing that to kind of microdose my body,
Mhm.
always with the Natren Probiotics. And it's working quite well.
Yeah, and just don't want to say that there's a lot of wrong things because I've studied cultures where dairy is a staple and grains are a staple, and the cultures are fine. It's what's happened here. And I just want to remind something, my Macedonian heritage, all of the yogurts were made from sheep's milk. They were basically all sheep's milk. It's much richer and it's a really heavy custard when you make it into a yogurt.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is amazing. And remember, sheep are the only animals that don't get cancer.
I did not
That's,
know that.
yeah, they don't get cancer. So, it's for a reason that in those countries, like, North Macedonia, Greece, Bulgaria, a part of Serbia, uh, the sheep, are used and they produce cheese and milk and they do not transfer any cancerous liability.
Wow. I have my
So,
my 15 sheep out on the pasture right now.
yeah. So there's a lot of information, what I call good information that the public needs right now because we have a compromised public and we have a completely failed medical system. You can't even get to see your doctor. You have to make weeks in advance. And if you have a problem, you can't even see your doctor. They'll tell you, go to an emergency room or urgent care.
Yeah. I just want to go back to what you said about the food and traditional cultures and to reiterate
Mhm.
that, everything that Natasha and I have told you to avoid, that's while you're clearing the bad bacteria and reimplanting with the healthy probiotics from Natren. Once you've balanced your system, then
Mhm.
you can start adding those foods back in. But again, be savvy about them. Your grains should not have any contact with glyphosate. They should not have any GMO contaminants. Your meat should only be grass-fed or pasture raised. You're same with your dairy. Your dairy should be grass-fed, pasture raised, no
Mhm.
hormones. Like we've got to clean up the food supply because the food supply is killing the good bacteria in our gut in Western world.
Right, right. And that's what I tell people. You cannot listen to anybody, because like I said, again, I've been doing this for 60 years and I've talked to every great person in alternative health and in the health food industry. You cannot regain this easily. It's going to take us a couple of decades before we start raising healthy children and having a healthy population. And that means everybody participating. So it's a battle to go back up because just to give you an example, I've spent 2 weeks looking for my water in glass. They're out, and we're so used to buying just water in plastic. So what has this got to do with irritable bowel syndrome or SIBO? Microplastics encourage infections, encourage the death of these beneficial bacteria. So whatever we're doing, the thousands of things that we're doing on a daily basis is destroying the very thing that we need to protect us.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when people say, well, why do I have to do all this? Why is it so complicated to be healthy? It's like, look at the environment, look at the food supply, look at
Yeah.
like where I live right now, I'm on 160 acres of wilderness. I am surrounded by, national land. So there's nobody around me. My nearest neighbor is 4 miles away. Okay, my water comes from the top of the mountain where there is no farming, there's no agriculture, there's nothing, and it runs down the mountain through old growth forests, through crystalline rock structures, through bentonite clay, and that's the water that I'm drinking. And yes, I do have an additional filtration system for pathogens, but my water doesn't touch plastic. It doesn't touch any of those things.
Yeah.
And then my food supply, like I get my raw milk from a farmer down the road and he bottles in glass and it was milk that morning. And yeah, if you're living like that, and then my horse manure and my sheep manure is used to revitalize the land, and over time the land has remineralized itself. So now we're able to grow mineral rich, nutrient rich food in that land. So there's all these things. Now you take your person living in your average city or
Mhm.
town, how are they going to get that level of health? They're not. It's actually physically impossible. So you have to do all these other things. You have to take your probiotics
That's
every
right.
single day. You have to, do regular detox. You have to go on pathogen killers, infrared saunas. Like, that's the world that we've created. We've created a super toxic world that is very difficult. And we're not even talking about the Wi-Fi microwave radiation and how that's affecting our cells.
Oh, yeah.
So,
It's actually destroying our cellular structure,
yeah,
and so that's why we're telling people, I'm not here to tell you what to take. I think there's a huge confusion in the health food industry, and that's why I'm proud to say I still have 3 people working for me in my consumer direct. And one woman has been with me for 28 years, and she says, well, I'll retire when you retire. And, these people love their jobs. They love telling you what to take. They're not there pushing, stuff for you to buy. I hate that. I just, they give you a service that's really no longer available today because you can't call a company and get somebody that lives in the United States and can actually explain anything about the product they're selling.
yeah. So Natasha has a live phone line that you can call and speak to one of these consultants who will give you the benefit of their, like one of your operators, 28 years working with
Mhm.
clients. And you can call in. On my site, we have live chat.
Yeah.
And that's operational. And if it's after hours, my people will get back to you with an email, because Natasha and I both feel, no, we're not going to give you
Mhm.
medical advice, but we are going to say, well, this is what we found works, or this is what, for me, I say, well, if it were me, I would do this. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if it were me, I would do, like, there's ways that we can really help you out and stay on the legal side of not giving medical advice.
Well, first of all, Ginny, God bless you, because I tell people I don't give medical advice. I'm not treating disease. We are
Yes,
giving tools to the body to heal itself. It's a completely different concept.
exactly.
The body is not defective. If you give it the tools, you give it the psychological support with what I call the view of reality or your perception of reality, and you do the right thing, the body has the tools to heal itself. You've been lied to. We're
Yeah.
not defective. All of the AI you have there is based on our neurological patterns. It's not better than us. We just think we're defective. We're not. We're a
Preach it,
beautiful
sister.
creation. Pardon me?
Preach it, sister.
Yeah. No, we are a beautiful creation. We can look, our body rebuilds itself every year. We have an opportunity to rebuild anything that's defective in the body. That's science. That's not me. That's science. It proves that every minute you lose 10 million bacteria, and that bacteria has to be replaced by solid, good proteins. And that's why Ginny's protein powder is great, because I know how long took to replace it. So, I mean, to introduce it, not replace it. But
Yeah.
here's a breakdown. So when people tell you that you're defective, you're not. Look at this pattern, and you have a chance to rebuild anything in your body if you follow people who really want the best for you. We're not trying to sell you 30 supplements. We're not trying to give you 5 pharmaceutical drugs. We're not in that business. We're in the business to give you the power to heal yourself. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, in 365 days, 98% of your body is rebuilt. Okay, so I feel good telling you every year you're rebuilt. So
Yes.
even your brain cells, when people tell you your brain is defective, once the neurons die, you're done. You've not been told the truth, my friends. You have not been told the truth. You can rebuild your body if you really know what you're doing, and stop listening to the person, because most of these people giving advice today don't even have a decade of experience. They don't. and they haven't suffered personally. You know, when you suffer personally, it's the greatest incentive to find things that work.
Absolutely.
And, you know, both Jini and I have suffered personally, so we know what it feels like and we know what it takes to get better. So, and it's always your choice. And so I say, you know, go on her site, get her wild oregano oil. It's one that I recommend. Get her protein powders, go to Natren, you know, call one of our people, and I'll give the number out again. It's 866, the number 4, and spell out the word Natren. And you can talk to Susan, Carolyn, or Faye, and they're all there. They really love to help you. And so Jini has a live chat. Go on her live chat, and I'm sure somebody will help you as well. We're here to transform lives. That's it. This is all this is about, because we don't need to be working at this stage in our life.
Yeah, I'm 57, you're 77. It's like, but like you said, there's so many people suffering and there's so much misinformation and there's so many, you know, people who are motivated by non-admirable things that you just have
Yeah,
to speak up.
yeah. So, you know, look, reach out to us. You know, you can go to our websites, reach out to us. I, you know, do talk to people personally. I try not to have more than 2 or 3 people because they call me at night, they call me in the morning, and they call me from all over the world, honestly. And it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. And doctors call me. Doctors call me because they
Oh,
have
yeah.
problems they don't know what to do with.
That's
And
right.
I said, stop trying to treat disease. Give the body the tools that it needs to heal itself.
Yeah. I consult with doctors all the time. And like you, I do it for free because I figure
Mhm.
that every health professional that I can educate then has a multiple downstream.
Yeah,
And they'll use my protocols to heal their child or but they can't legally tell their patients about my books because they can lose their whole livelihood. But what they can do is they can have a copy of my book in their waiting room, and that's fine. So if you have a doctor and you can drop off a copy of my books and contact me, I'll send them to you for free. The books can be in the waiting room and they're allowed to do that. So we have a system that's so geared to support sickness. Like you said, we've all got to pull together. We've got to fix this planet. We've got to do things differently and understand that it's going to take a decade or two.
yeah. And figure out who are the people, you know, I want to say this parting words. We all have the capacity to know the truth when we hear it.
Mhm.
We just have to unclutter our mind. And that's what we're missing in this industry. We're listening to too many people who have the wrong incentives and just know part of the puzzle. You need to talk to people who have really experienced almost everything that is around today and know how to deal with it and will tell you the truth and will tell you, look, we will work at it together until your body is able to heal itself.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you. And hey, look, next week we're going to talk about more exciting things. There's got so many problems. I don't know where you'd even go first.
Exactly. More coming.